Right, welcome grade 9s on this Friday morning. Today we're going to look at the next topic of the price theory, and we're going to look at equilibrium, price and quantity. Thanks to those of you who are joining in now. Welcome, welcome. All right, so in the past few lessons, we first looked at the demand schedule and the demand curve, and we said that there's lots of things that can influence demand except for price, and we spoke about the law of demand, and we looked at what the demand curve looks like. And then we moved on to supply, and we said once again, except for price, there's a couple of other things that also influence supply, the amount of products that suppliers are willing to supply. There's other things that also influence it, but if we just look at price, what is supply and what is the law of supply, and we look at the supply curve. Now today we're going to look at the equilibrium point, or more specifically the equilibrium price and quantity. Now what is this big word? What does it say? Equilibrium price is the price at which the quantity demanded by the consumer or the client is equal to the quantity that a supplier is willing to supply. So that means we actually find a balance in the market. The number of products that, or items that the customer want at a specific price is equal to the number of products or items that the suppliers are willing to supply to the market. Right, so let's have a look at the next slide. We know that price affects both supply and demand in the market, especially nowadays. Both consumers and suppliers are quite price sensitive. Lots of people do not have the amount of money that they usually earn, and therefore a slight rise in the price of a product might make consumers not to demand it at that price anymore. And if suppliers know that they can get a little bit more, they might be willing to supply a lot more into the market. Now, for us to determine the equilibrium point in the market, we need to combine both the supply and the demand graph or schedules onto one graph to see where that exact point is. And now we're going to deal with basically two new concepts. The first one is we're going to look at supply surplus. Now, what is that? That is when, obviously at a higher price, suppliers are willing to supply much or many more products into the market because they know they can get more for that product. So usually the demand is low at a high price, but the supply is high. So then we sit with a supply surplus. So suppliers put more products into the market, but there's not a demand for it. On the other hand, if we look at a supply deficit, that is usually when prices for a specific product are quite low, and therefore there's lots of people who demand that product, but the suppliers are not willing to supply it at that price. And therefore we see a supply deficit, meaning lots of people wanting it, needing to buy this product, preparing to pay for it, but the suppliers say, no, we are not going to put that product into the market at that low price. Okay, so what does it look like when we combine both the supply and the demand curves? Here, I'm just giving you some examples of what it could look like. Remember in our previous session we said that it needn't exactly be a straight line. It can be a little bit crooked as well, depending on the data or the information that we get for that specific product. Or in some cases it has got a nice curve like this, that's also fine. Now you can still see our demand curve on both sides has got a negative slope or a slant. Remember we spoke about it. We said it is the price and quantity is inversely related, meaning that the higher the price, the lower the demand for a product. The lower the price of a product, the higher the demand for a product. Then if we look at the supply curve, that's got a positive slope or an intuitive slope, or slant, and that means if the price of a product is high, the suppliers are willing to supply a lot. If the price of a product is low, then the suppliers are willing to supply less. So that is then the supply curve. Now, where is the equilibrium point? Equilibrium price and quantity. This is where these two graphs or curves meet. So where they intersect, that would be our equilibrium point in the market. And that means the quantity demanded and the quantity supplied at that specific price is exactly the same. Right, so let's go back to our Twiggles example from last time. Just going to move Lesego down a little bit so that we can see here. Okay, so now we have a combined supply and demand schedule in order for us to draw these two curves onto one graph. So let's have a look. First of all, here's my pricing, 6 Rand, 5 Rand, and 4 Rand. And remember, we spoke about, hopefully you can see it on this photo, yes, the Twiggles chips. So we said, if we look at the clients or the customers who are demanding these Twiggles chips, they want to buy it. Nee, we said at a high price, they're going to demand very few of these packets of chips. We said in a class, let's say only 10 students would want that. We said at 5 Rand, more students would buy the Twiggles. And if I drop the price to 4 Rand, then the whole class will buy the Twiggles. And there we can see it on the graph again. There. At 6 Rand, 10 people demanded the Twiggles. At 5 Rand, 20 people said they will buy, and at 4 Rand, the whole class said 30 of us, we are going to buy the Twiggles at this low price. So that is our demand curve. If we go to the supply schedule, there we see it's just the opposite. At 6 Rand, then I'm prepared to sell a lot of them and put a lot of them there on my table because I know that I will get a lot of money from it. Nee? So, or make profit at the end. So we said at 6 Rand, the supplier is willing to supply 30 of these packets of chips. At 5 Rand, look, then I can still make some profit, but it's not that great anymore. I'm prepared to supply 20 packets of chips at 5 Rand. And then at 4 Rand, it's not really worth my while. I'm only going to supply 10 because I'll make very little profit. So there we go again. So let's have a look. At 6 Rand, yes, I will supply a lot. There's my 30 packets that I'll supply at 6 Rand. If we go down to 5 Rand, okay, I'll supply 20. So 5 Rand, 20. And at 4 Rand, no, I'm only prepared to supply 10 packets of chips into the market. At 4 Rand, 10 of them. Okay, so now if you've drawn the two curves, there where they intersect, that is our equilibrium point. So what is our equilibrium point in this case with our Twiggles chips? We can see that it's 20 packets of chips at 5 Rand. So then we do not have any surplus or deficit in the market. The quantity demanded is exactly at that point the same as the quantity supplied. Now here in the last column, I've just indicated for you where do we have a surplus or a deficit. Now remember, we look at it from the supplier's point of view because they will be putting the products into the market at a specific price. So at 6 Rand, there will be a 20 unit surplus. So 20 packets of chips will be in surplus. Why? I, as the supplier, am willing to supply 30, but the client or the customer is only prepared to take 10. So therefore, we have a 20 unit surplus. How do I get it? So quantity supplied 30 minus quantity demanded 10 gives me the 20. If we go to the 5 Rand, we'll see there's no surplus because quantity demanded is equal to quantity supplied. And then on 4 Rand, we will see a 20 unit deficit. Why? As the supplier, I'm only prepared to put in 10 packets of chips into the market, but the market wants 30 of them. So there is a shortage, a deficit, same with a shortage, same meaning a shortage, there's a shortage of 20 packets of chips there. So now the people will have to fight for those 10 packets. All right, so this is the equilibrium point. So grade 9s, you will have to be able to take information. You will most probably get something like this, a demand and supply schedule, a combined one, and then you'll have to use this information in order to draw your demand and supply curves and then determine the equilibrium point. But you can see it's actually so easy. We can even just read it off this table, of the schedule. It will tell us where the equilibrium point is there. So it's where supply, the quantity supplied and the quantity demanded is exactly the same. So yeah, you'll have to be able to read it also off the schedule or a table, but you can see it's actually very easy and straightforward if you understand the principle of the demand schedule and the demand graph and the supply graph. Then this is very easy. Okay, and that's all there is to the equilibrium point. So grade 9s, you can go and practice to see if you can manage in your textbook on page 86, activity 3, there's a few questions, and then it requires you to draw the demand and supply graph and determine the equilibrium point. Then if you want some extra practice, I've also included activity 14, where there's just a few more questions and opportunity for you to practice. And then I found once again a very nice YouTube video that you can also go and have a look to just refresh the memory and to just go over it once more, and you hear somebody else's voice that also explains it to you. Okay, so this is our lesson and our session for today. What we'll be looking at next week is now we're going to play around a bit with if there are changes in demand and changes in supply, and how does that affect the curves and the pricing of a product. Quite interesting. We have touched on it in a previous lesson, especially now with COVID-19 and the lockdown. Some products prices go haywire, and how does the market react to that? Sometimes we would think the demand would go lower if the prices increase, but now with some products, prices increase and people keep on buying, they're wanting more. Just last night, I had to fill up my car for the first time since, I think, middle March, and the petrol price came down so much. I think it was 11 or 12 Rand, and one would think that the people would be queuing for petrol at that price, but people don't need petrol now. Many people are still at home, they're not driving around, so the demand stays low, even if the price of petrol goes down. So quite interesting. I think we'll have a very nice discussion on that. If you want to join and you have got questions on that, I would be happy to try and answer them for you. Right, before we close off, are there any questions? Lesego, anything from your side? Nothing. Okay, great stuff. Thanks for joining, grade 9s. I hope you have a wonderful weekend, and we'll speak soon again. Bye-bye.